Hi everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond, and I'm here with your mental health moment. Thank you for those who are tuning in for the very first time on Mental Health Moment. And thank you so much for those of you who are tuning in every week, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on Black Women Empowered. Very much appreciate you and all our new visitors as well. So I see some people joining. Thank you so much for tuning in again to Mental Health Moment. I am Dr. Hammond, and I love giving tips related to health and wellness and mental health and children and all those great topics, right? So I want to give you all a couple of tips today. And this is specifically on something that I feel like many of you are mentioning on a lot of the mental health moments about healing, right? And when I say healing, I mean emotional healing. So those of you, I see some people still tuning in. For those of you still joining, welcome again to Mental Health Moment. And today we are going to be going over a couple of tips for emotional healing. So really, the first thing, there's three tips I have for you today. So the first thing I want to remind each and every one of you about is there's this way that we tend to look at our experiences and the things that happen in our life, and we say, man, that was great. It was a really great thing that happened. Or we say, that was horrible. It was a horrible thing that happened, right? But, and we just put things into a lot of categories. But have you in your life, think about it, have you in your life ever had a situation where you're like, man, this is the worst thing that has ever happened to me? But later on, you realize that it was actually a blessing in disguise. So whether that is the loss of a job, whether it's a heartbreak from a breakup, whether it's something stressful or a new move or something that has happened in your life, a lot of times we quickly say whether it's good or bad. But what I want to remind you of this evening is that there are many things that will be blessings in disguise in your life, and you might not know it right away. It may be several years down the road when you look back on a situation, you're like, man, I'm really glad whatever situation that seemed really hard at the time happened. And I know many of us can really relate to this. So I want to, to definitely remind you of this, that things happen and you really don't know whether it's going to be a blessing in disguise for you. So keep that in mind. If you really move into your life and keep that in mind, you will find that you stop labeling things as much, because the truth of the matter is we honestly do not know, right? But thinking of those things that maybe you think may be negative going forward can be something that's really, really helpful for you when you think about emotional healing, or when things happen that are just a surprise, right? The next thing I want to tell you about, the next tip I want to tell you about, and let's see here. I'm going to look through. Okay, there we go. Some of these comments in. And thank you again for those who are still joining from Las Vegas, Patricia, and from Pennsylvania, Marlene, Georgia, Inez, Tasha. I see some of your comments. I think they're loading a little bit slower tonight. But nonetheless, thank you all for joining. Even if I don't see you in the comments here, thank you again for joining. And today we are talking about emotional healing. So the first tip is to really think about things that have happened in your life, whether it's recent or something in the past, and you may think that it's something negative, but the truth of the matter is it may be a blessing in disguise. So when you keep that in mind, and really when you keep that mindset, you really appreciate things that are happening in your journey of life a lot more, because again, this may be something that is so beneficial for you in the future, but you don't see it in the moment. So I want you to keep that in mind even as a start. The second tip I want to remind each and every one of you of is to really take care of yourself. I cannot stress this tip enough. I will say personally that back when I was in graduate school, I absolutely did not take care of myself. I had multiple jobs trying to get through school, doing 95 different things, a part of different organizations, doing too much, not at all taking care of myself and knowing how important it was for self-care, getting no sleep. I mean, just horrible, just running ragged, right? But I have learned over the years how important that is. And still now my schedule is insane. Many of you that have joined mental health moments in the past know sometimes I'm in an airport or somewhere else, right? With a busy travel schedule. However, the difference is I've absolutely incorporated self-care in my life. And I wish that for each and every one of you, no matter how busy, there are so many things that you can do. Please don't use time or money as an excuse, because again, and we've talked about in the past, even a minute or two, it takes sometimes to incorporate some type of self-care into your life on a regular basis. So I want you to keep that in mind. And the third thing is, if whatever it is right now that you may be dealing with or healing from, frankly, get the help that you need. And I say that very broadly on purpose, because getting the help that you need looks different for every one of you that I'm talking to right now. So for you, you may say, you know what, I've reached the point of the breakup that I'm experiencing, the job stress that I have, or someone that has as close to me that passed away, a friend or family member, or whatever other stress that you have going on right now. You say, you know what, I reached the point where I can't do this on my own. I need to reach out to my family and friends. And you may have the most amazing support network, which is awesome. And that could be enough. And you get that support you need from your family and friends, which is incredible. And you're absolutely blessed to have that. But if you say, I've reached out to my friends and family and it's not enough, right? I still feel depressed. I still feel anxious. I cannot cope. It's difficult at work or at school, or whatever it is that you're doing. That's when you really need to think about possibly taking that next step and looking for a counselor. And again, it's definitely a personal decision, but do not let the stigma of mental health affect you or someone else that you know, and instead encourage them to get the help that they need, because that's going to be so important when we're talking about emotional healing. The other part I want to leave you with, so those are my 3 tips. So for those of you and thank you for those who are still joining from Illinois, thank you, Diane. And so true, we don't know if this is a blessing, says Carolyn. Absolutely, absolutely true. I received this. I'm very happy for you that you're receiving this self-care. Yes, Corey says amen. I say amen too. Be intentional with self-care. Rose, thank you. Learning how to ask for help and stop trying to do it by myself, says Linda. That is so true. I'm really glad you brought that up, because many of you, myself included, sometimes we may have a hard time asking for help and we just want to do everything, right? But it's so critical. Each of you have a different set of needs, emotional needs. And when it comes to healing, oftentimes we need to ask someone in our life for help. So you don't always have to be a superhero. I'm so for being a superhero, right, in certain parts of life, but I'm also sometimes an advocate of taking the cape off. Stop being the superhero all the time for everyone else, and start making sure that you're taking care of yourself. And again, whatever that looks like for you, I can tell you absolutely that self-care is vital. As I mentioned, for those of you tuning in late, the first thing we talked about for emotional healing was, really thinking about things may be a blessing in disguise. The second thing is taking care of yourself, incorporating the self-care, whatever that looks like for you, even if it's a couple of minutes a day, a week, something is better than nothing. My favorite hashtag that I use over on Instagram is hashtag take a minute. And I literally use that if I'm watching a sunset on a plane or whatever I'm doing, just to really just take a minute. And the third thing is remembering to get help in the form that works best for you, whether it is counseling, if you need that, reaching out to your friends and family, but making sure that you get the help that you need. Those are going to be very critical going forward for emotional healing. Thank you, Francine, for saying that too. Get the help you need. Wow. And Carolyn, I thank you for also mentioning that she had a comment that said she neglected herself for a while, and it was at the point where bodily functions were starting to shut down. And that is an excellent point. I have met so many people that have said that as well. Absolutely, our mind and body are connected. So when we don't take care of ourselves and we are so frazzled, it can absolutely take a toll on our physical health as well, which is why our emotional health and our emotional healing is so important, because it doesn't only impact that and our moods and our behavior, but it also impacts how we show up, right? And whether we can function to go to work, right, physically. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a great point. I love Francine. She said, #healing. I love that. Don't be ashamed to get help. Absolutely. And thank you. It was very helpful. And thank you all as well for your comments and your sharing. I really enjoy when you all share, what is going on with your life. If you feel comfortable with that, that's absolutely wonderful, because other people can see too. It starts to normalize it, that each and every one of us is on a journey for healing, whether it's mental health, physical health, or a combination of the two. But we're all on this journey. And I want to say again, I appreciate you for tuning in. Something I will ask of you today, if you have a topic that you would like to see on Mental Health Moment, please feel free to add it in the comments here. Usually afterwards, I'll go through and answer any questions, or kind of see your comments, and I will definitely try to get that topic here on Mental Health Moment in the future. And again, I thank you for tuning in. All my social media contact is in the chat here, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions whatsoever or need any resources. And again, I appreciate you. Please be well and take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Take care.